The results from Georgia's primary elections yesterday are the most high-profile rebuke of former President Donald Trump's chosen candidates so far this season. Two Republican incumbents who both stood up for the 2020 election results survived primary challenges. Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, whom the former president once pleaded with to help find the votes to overturn the 2020 results, won his race. And Governor Brian Kemp easily beat former Senator David Perdue with more than 70% of the vote.
Even in the middle of a tough primary, conservatives across our state didn't listen to the noise. They didn't get distracted. They knew our record of fighting and winning for hardworking Georgians.
Governor Kemp will face Democrat Stacey Abrams in November. That's a rematch from 4 years ago. But yesterday wasn't all bad news for the former president. His pick for the U.S. Senate, former NFL player Herschel Walker, easily won the nomination. And controversial Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene won the backing of 70% of Republicans in her district. Stephen Fowler is here for a closer look at the results. He's a political reporter for Georgia Public Broadcasting. Stephen Fowler, welcome back to the NewsHour. So we see that some of former President Trump's endorsees did well, others didn't. What does this say to you, all, if you put it all together, about his influence among Georgia voters and also, frankly, the strength of the big lie that he actually won and Joe Biden didn't in 2020?
Well, Judy, I think there's a ceiling on just how far focusing on false claims about the 2020 election can get you as a Republican candidate. We saw that with David Perdue struggling and Jody Hice struggling in the Secretary of State's race. But the reason Trump's candidates lost as well is that you had two popular incumbents that have a long record with Georgia voters, that have a long conservative record. For example, Brian Kemp flexed the power of his office in recent years to cut taxes for people and to pay teachers more and state employees more and to enact conservative policies around abortion and voting rights and firearms, and really didn't give Georgia voters that were Republicans much reason to go with somebody else. Same with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, who touted Georgia's election laws and record early voting turnout to say that he's the one that should be in charge.
So when it comes to belief and, as we said, the big lie, do these results give you a sense of how firm a hold that view has on Republican voters in Georgia?
I think the message that Republican voters are sending is that it's time to move on and that there is a future for the Republican Party, not the past. And the resounding margins for Kemp and even Raffensperger show that most voters are looking ahead and not focused on the past, and that Trump's sway doesn't necessarily carry as much weight as it used to.
And then we're including in that a look at Herschel Walker, but as you point out, he didn't have the significant opposition that the others did. Let me ask you about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman, controversial. What about her race, her congressional district?
I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is exactly what the voters in that district want in a representative. She also, too, now has the power of incumbency and time in office. And many of the people running against her ran as an opposition to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and that's just something that the voters didn't want. She's very controversial, but she is very representative of Trump's policies. Obviously, Trump endorsed her. She's very close to the former president, and for the people of Northwest Georgia, which is one of the most conservative districts in the country, that's exactly who they want representing them in the halls of Congress.
So, Stephen Fowler, look ahead to the fall, to November for us. What does it look like for Brian Kemp facing in a rematch with Stacey Abrams?
Well, Brian Kemp won by about 55,000 votes in 2018, and Georgia's politics has become even more of a hardened battleground since then. So both sides are expecting a really, really tough race. I mean, Kemp is riding this wave of incumbency where he had a decisive victory at a time when people were saying maybe he would face a runoff. So it's going to be tight, it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be really a nationally watched election.
And the Senate race? Tight as well?
Absolutely. Raphael Warnock is the Democrat who won in the 2021 special election and is one of the most vulnerable incumbents on the ballot across the country. And Herschel Walker has a lot of celebrity power in Georgia that Trump's endorsement probably wouldn't even matter because Georgians love him so much and know him so much from his football past. But Walker has a past where there's some questions about domestic violence allegations and overstated resumes. So this too will be a deciding race for Georgia, but also potentially for the U.S. Senate and who controls it.
All eyes on the Peach State now and for the months to come. Thank you very much, Stephen Fowler.
Thank you.